After several incidents with the first patient that caused the Neuralink chip to lose 85% of its signals, Musk officially confirmed that the company has completed the implant on the second patient with unexpected success. Many changes have been made for the second patient and the new generation of the implant device. Is it safe in the long term? And are there risks after the chip improvements? Find out now. Neuralink's second human trials. After the successful testing on the first patient, Noland Arbaugh, it's been more than 7 months now, and we finally heard brand new news about the second patient. Elon Musk shared the results of the new chip implant in a recent 8-hour video. As we know, the second patient suffered a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed in an accident. It's not too difficult to see. The second patient also had a similar condition to Noland Arbaugh. The guy was paralyzed after a driving accident, and Neuralink is thought to be giving him a second life. Like Noland Arbaugh in the first few weeks after the successful implementation, Elon did not rush to reveal the patient's identity. Therefore, in a conversation with Lex Friedman, very little info about the patient was mentioned. Musk said, "I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to have gone extremely well with the second implant. There's a lot of signal, a lot of electrodes, is working very well." Clearly, there have been changes in the redesign of Neuralink's implant device after learning from some issues encountered with Noland Arbaugh. The first-generation chip included 64 threads, each thinner than a human hair, with 16 electrodes per thread, totaling 1,024 electrodes. Incredible. However, the chip for the second patient seems to be even more effective. To increase bandwidth and avoid electrode degradation on the threads, Elon stated that the next-gen implant device will have 128 threads, but each thread will only have 8 electrodes. This change, he said, could potentially double the bandwidth if the thread positions are accurately identified. On top of that, the threads for the second patient will be implanted at a deeper level compared to Noland Arbaugh. The electrodes connecting to the cortex will be implanted 8 millimeters deep from the brain's surface instead of the previous depth of 3 to 5 millimeters. According to our info, implanting the threads deeper helps secure them more firmly, addressing those issues that we learned from the retraction of threads on the brain, which led to a loss of 85% of the threads and a reduction in signal detection. Additionally, deeper implantation means that even if the threads retract slightly, the electrodes are still going to be deep enough within the brain to remain functional and detect neuronal activity. Now, while it's not clear whether impacting the brain at a greater depth poses a bigger risk to the patient, it is evident that patient number 2 must endure more significant damage compared to patient number 1. For the second patient, Neuralink's team also learned that residual air pockets in the brain are a major cause of the threads on the chip retracting. Explaining this, Neuralink's head neurosurgeon, Matthew McDougall, said, "During any typical brain surgery, a small amount of hair is introduced into the skull. That's because neurosurgeons like to have as much room as possible around the brain. That air pocket, we think, may have contributed to eating up some of the thread slack as the air bubble migrated to be under the implant, pushing the brain away from the implant," McDougall explained. In response, Neuralink's team wants to keep the second patient's carbon dioxide levels in a normal range during surgery to prevent the brain from expanding or retracting. The company plans on better sculpting the implant to prevent a gap from appearing under the skull. That will put the implant closer to the brain and eliminate some of the tensions on the threads, McDougall mentioned. Neuralink had planned to perform a brain chip implant surgery on a second patient back in June, but the plan got canceled due to medical issues. The surgery then took place quietly and only became known when Elon revealed it in a recent interview. So, what did Elon Musk say about the results on that second patient? As mentioned above, although second-generation chip got tweaked, it still ended up with a max of 1,024 electrodes. With the latest sharing from Elon, he said that there are 400 active electrodes implanted on the second patient's brain. This means that the chip has not yet achieved the maximum 1,024 electrodes, but only achieved 40%, and only about 50% threads are going to be active right now on the second patient's brain. Previously, Noland, the first person to get a Neuralink implant, shared that although some of the electrodes had previously migrated out of his brain and were now just about 15% functional, Neuralink has since then restored the chip's functionalities through some software tweaks. Even with only 10 to 15% of his electrodes functioning, Noland Arbaugh was still able to break his previous world record for speed and accuracy in controlling a cursor with a BCI, Musk said. According to Noland, if future patients in the trial can get to 100% or 90% of the electrodes to work, they'll be able to accomplish tasks that he can't do now, offering great hope for our future. Thus, the initial result of 400 functioning electrodes in the second patient is extremely promising. Awesome. The disconnection of threads from the cortex would undoubtedly impact Arbaugh's ability to connect to and control machinery. Now, to address this issue, Neuralink has implanted a step to increase the sensitivity of the brain wave recognition algorithm for the BCI's chip operation. This adjustment aims to eliminate the need for surgery to correct or reconnect the electrodes and threads that have detached from the patient's brain. Neuralink even claims that by improving the algo that translates brainwaves into commands for controlling a computer cursor on the BCI chip, the user's experience, Arbaugh's in this case, will be significantly enhanced. The data bandwidth sent to the computer for control purposes is expected to increase compared to the initial days right after surgery. Musk describes Neuralink's next steps as gigantic, predicting that in the coming years, the company will significantly increase the number of electrodes and enhance signal processing. The electrodes, which are a big component of the impact, collect brain cells and then route them to the electronic devices within the implant. The devices process and wirelessly transmit neural data to a version of the Neuralink app that runs on an external device, like a computer. How did the implantation for the second patient proceed? In fact, the new generation of implants has improved, but the implantation process hasn't changed much from the first patient, except for the depth of the invasion and the number of invasive threads. According to McDougall, once surgeons cut that skin on the top of the head, they flap it open, kind of like opening the hood of a car. Make a 1-inch round diameter in the skull, remove that bit of the skull, open the lining of the brain, and then show that part of the brain to the Neuralink robot. This is where the robot shines, he said. It can come in and take out these tiny things, much smaller than human hair, electrodes, and then precisely insert them into the cortex, into the surface of the brain, into a very precise depth, in a very precise spot that avoids all the blood vessels that are coating the surface of the brain. And after the robot's done with this part, then the human comes back in and puts the implant into that hole in the skull and then covers it up, screwing it down to the skull and sewing the skin back together. So the whole thing takes a few hours. During the procedure, surgeons make a cut in the skin on the top of the head over the area of the brain that's the most potent representation of hand intentions, according to McDougall. If you are an expert concert pianist, this part of your brain's lighting up the entire time you're playing, he said. We call it a hand knob. Even quadriplegic patients whose brains aren't connected to their finger movements anymore still imagine finger movements, and this knob part of the brain still lights up, the neurosurgeon said. Neuralink's upcoming implant plans. Despite those issues, the company says it has more than 1,000 volunteers ready for upcoming surgical trials. Musk says he hopes to reach his goal of implanting his chip into 8 more patients by the end of the year, but that's still subject to regulatory approval. It's hard to believe, but Neuralink's accelerating its efforts to maximize efficiency and restore function to thousands of patients. Remember the Blindsight product that Elon talked about on X? This is also part of Neuralink's upcoming plans and could very well be used in the next 8 patients. Some may have heard of Blindsight, but others might not know about it. Musk wrote on X that Blindsight is the next Neuralink product after telepathy, as the name of the implant Blindsight is an attempt to restore vision to blind patients, even those who are born blind. The company is still in the process of testing this product on animals to get the best evaluation before applying it to humans. Fair enough. In reality, restoring vision with a Neuralink chip will be more challenging than typical cases of paralysis because, as you know, the eyes are a pretty sensitive organ that's connected to the back part of the brain that allows us to see. Blindsight will primarily target the area at the back of the brain known as the visual cortex to stimulate the neurons to function again. The 1,024 electrodes from the Blindsight chip will directly stimulate nerve cells in the retinal structure. This stimulation mimics light signals, helping the brain form images. The brain will then process the signals from the Neuralink device to create images. Now, the truth is, these images may not be as clear as normal vision, which is almost impossible, but they do help blind people recognize objects and their surroundings. Musk has shared about this, that resolution is going to be low at first, kind of like early Nintendo graphics, but ultimately may exceed normal human vision. If internal stimulation becomes ineffective, Neuralink could potentially transmit external images to the patient's brain. In this case, the patient might need to wear a digital camera, kind of like a GoPro. In this way, the camera device would wirelessly transmit data via Bluetooth to a mobile device. The phone would then convert the image data into neural signals, which are then embedded back into the Neuralink chip. The chip would subsequently send those neural signals to the brain, allowing you to see the images displayed on the phone. Of course, this scenario would be quite challenging and would require extensive research and time. It does sound a lot like virtual reality, doesn't it? Before Arbaugh got his implant in January, he used a mouth stick to interact with the tablet screen. He stated that with the implant, he can now simply think about what he wants to happen on the computer screen, and the device makes it a reality. He mentioned the device has given him a bit more independence and reduced his reliance on caregivers. After Noland was implanted with a Neuralink chip, his life changed, and he achieved things he thought he would never be able to do under his current circumstances. The second patient's expected to perform even better than Noland, as the Neuralink team has gained experience and lessons to avoid errors compared to the first implantation. Elon has stated that Neuralink brain implants will be the best way for humans to integrate and compete with advanced AI systems in the future. Imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or an auctioneer. That's the goal, Musk posted to his social media platform X in January 2024. Musk has promoted Neuralink as a technology that could facilitate a symbiosis between humans and AI in the future. In his conversation with Friedman, Musk mentioned that the Neuralink chip might be the best way to prevent AI from surpassing humans and going rogue in a Terminator-like scenario. Musk said Neuralink devices would eventually be able to repair damaged neurons to help people with problems like blindness and paralysis. It can also solve probably schizophrenia if people are having seizures of some kind, Elon said on the podcast. It could possibly solve that. It could help with the memory. He added that Neuralink's aim isn't just about giving people with neurological damage a full range of communication, but to enhance their already natural abilities. He even suggested that a person using Neuralink might eventually have vision that's higher resolution than human eyes. Musk compared vision enhancements with Neuralink to the visor worn by the character. LaForge wore a thin visor over his eyes that allowed him to see by reading the electromagnetic field and then sending inputs into his brain. Do you want to see it in a radar? No problem, Elon said. You could see ultraviolet, infrared, eagle vision, whatever you want. Musk said solving issues like neuron damage is the first baby step to getting Neuralink to a point where it could do more complex things like communicating with AI systems. However, we anticipate that Neuralink will continue to face numerous issues in the future as the number of trial patients increase. Just this year, Neuralink's been involved in two major controversies that have brought the company a lot of criticism. In June, a former employee sued Neuralink, accusing the company of having a discriminatory and hostile work environment. The employee shared that they were not provided with proper protective equipment while working with the monkeys used in Neuralink's device testing, and claimed that a monkey carrying the herpes B virus scratched her through her gloves. Following this, there was the issue with the death of a large number of animals during research, which Noland Arbaugh confirmed as a necessary sacrifice. Earlier in 2022, the animal rights group Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine accused the company of torturing monkeys during trials. As ambitions for this technology grow, Musk will need to reduce the current risks associated with N1 and ensure that his brain chip is successfully used by thousands of patients. Neuralink's second successful chip implantation signifies a major leap in neurotechnology and its potential to transform medical treatment for paralysis and other neurological disorders. The improvements in the chip design and surgical procedure demonstrate the company's commitment to refining and advancing its technology. By addressing these initial challenges and demonstrating promising early results, Neuralink is paving the way for future breakthroughs that could fundamentally change how we understand and treat neurological conditions. This technology might even eventually offer enhanced cognitive abilities and more profound interactions between humans and machines, highlighting the transformative potential of brain-computer interfaces, or BCI for short. Now, we want to ask you, the YouTube viewer, what do you think about Neuralink and their latest update on the second patient participating in the trial? Please let us know your opinions and your comments down below in the comments section. All right, so get this. Elon has just revealed the identity of the second official Neuralink implant patient. and he successfully had the second-generation Link chip implanted in July. In under a month, this patient has shown major breakthroughs controlling digital devices, and most importantly, his recovery's been smooth, no complications, unlike the first patient. So, who is this second patient, and what abilities has he recovered? Find out now. 1. Identity of the second patient. The second patient's been confirmed as Alex, an automotive technician with a passion for repairing and exploring all kinds of vehicles and complex machinery. Unfortunately, a severe accident left him with a significant spinal cord injury, robbing him of his ability to move and perform tasks like he used to. While Neuralink and Elon haven't disclosed the exact timing of Alex's implant, our sources suggest that he likely received the Neuralink chip about the third week of July, with the surgery performed at the Barrow Neurological Institute. Earlier on July 10th, Elon hinted that Neuralink would be conducting a brain implant surgery for the second patient in the coming week. The surgery was initially planned for June, but was postponed to July due to the patient's unstable health condition. By August 21st, we had finally received a lot of info from this patient, indicating that Neuralink's been carefully monitoring Alex's progress and response for over a month before officially announcing the results. It's worth noting that the first Neuralink patient, Noland Arbaugh, also had his identity and remarkable capabilities after the implant kept under wraps for more than a month before being publicly disclosed. Clearly, both Noland and Alex have spinal cord injuries, and Neuralink seemed to be focused on these types of cases in the initial testing phase. However, as we mentioned earlier, despite having similar spinal cord injuries, there are differences in the invasive methods and chip design between the two patients. These differences aim to avoid issues that occurred with the first patient. 2. New chip and invasive method for the second patient. To help you understand why Neuralink had to change and improve the invasive methods and chip design for the second patient, we need to revisit the serious incident that alarmed the first patient. Specifically, after the first patient received the chip consisting of 64 soft threads thinner than a human hair that extended into the brain tissue, each thread had 16 electrodes, allowing a total of 1,024 electrodes to record brain signals after implantation. However, just about 2 weeks after the implant, 85% of the electrodes and threads had retracted from Noland's brain, causing the chip system and signals to seem disconnected, with only about 15% of the threads still functioning. The CEO of the company admitted that air had become trapped inside Arbaugh's skull after the surgery, which may have contributed to the threads pulling out. Matthew McDougall, Neuralink's neurosurgery director, stated that the company had taken steps to eliminate the air pocket in the second patient. The company also implemented a plan to insert further threads deeper into the brain tissue and monitor their movement. Furthermore, as we know, more threads on the chip led to a firmer attachment to the brain, so the chip design itself was also revised for the second patient. Specifically, the Link chip for Alex will double the number of threads from 64 to 128. However, the number of electrodes per thread will be reduced from 16 to 8, resulting in the new chip for the second patient still having a total of 1,024 electrodes around the brain. With this change, Neuralink's neurosurgery director indicated that it could potentially double the bandwidth, allowing for more stable and accurate recording of neural signals. For the second patient, Alex, the depth of implanting the 128 threads into the brain tissue was also adjusted. Instead of the 3 to 5 millimeter depth used for the first patient, Neuralink's team decided on an 8 millimeter depth to achieve a lower retraction rate based on lessons learned from the previous incident. In addition, the Neuralink surgeons conducted to sculpt the surface of the skull to minimize the gap under the implant so that it sits flush with the normal contour of the skull. This, McDougall said, should minimize the gap under the implant and put it closer to the brain and eliminate some of the tension on the threads. As a result, Neuralink confirmed that no threads were retracted in the second participant, which is a very promising sign. These are the changes that have been made to the implant device and invasive methods for Alex. Before getting into the results and new capabilities of the second patient after getting Neuralink's chip, let's briefly review the implant procedure performed by the Neuralink team. Even with the adjustments in depth and chip design, the implantation process for Alex didn't differ that much from the first patient. Initially, surgeons made an incision about 5.8 millimeters thick on top of the head, opening it like lifting the hood of a car. Beneath the skin is the skull, where they create a 1-inch diameter circular hole. Remove this section of the skull, open the durometer, and then expose that part of the brain for the Neuralink R1 surgical robot. This is when the robot shines, as the surgeons cannot intervene. It can enter and place much smaller electrodes than a human hair with precise accuracy into the cortical surface at just the right depth and location to avoid all the blood vessels covering the brain's surface. After the robot completes its task, the surgeons return to place the implant into the skull's hole, secure it, and stitch the skin back together. The entire process takes several hours. After receiving the Neuralink chip, Alex also had to participate in research sessions of up to 8 hours a day, undergoing the progress of monitoring Neuralink's experts and doctors. 3. Neuralink's second human result. Like the first Neuralink patient, Noland Arbaugh, the second patient, Alex, has also been able to perform a variety of tasks, control, and use digital devices just by thinking. Specifically, Neuralink confirmed Alex was discharged the very next day, and his recovery's been very smooth. By early August, Musk revealed that 400 out of the 1,024 electrodes in Alex's brain were already showing signals, even less than 3 weeks after the implantation. Let's say this, 90% of us are horrified by Neuralink and these chips because we fear we might die after the implantation. However, clearly from the first patient to the second, the results have shown very rapid recovery, early appearance of positive outcomes, and almost no lasting side effects. We're not saying Neuralink's 100% safe, but at least it's not as terrifying as we originally thought. Returning what Alex, the second patient's been able to do, with the Link chip, Alex has improved his ability to play video games and has started learning to use computer-aided design CAD software to design 3D objects. Neuralink stated that this is a significant step towards providing high-performance interface, which enhances digital device control for people with quadriplegia and helps them regain independence. From the moment Alex connected the Link to his computer, it took him less than 5 minutes to start controlling the cursor with his mind. Oh my goodness. Clearly, he's doing this better than Noland Arbaugh. Could this be partly due to the tweaks we just talked about? Very likely. Within just a few hours, Alex was able to surpass the speed and accuracy he achieved with other assistance technology using Neuralink's WebGrid task, similar to what Noland did on his very first day using the Link. Neuralink's second patient broke the previous world record for brain-computer interface cursor control using non-Neuralink equipment. After the initial research session, Alex continued to test the Link's capabilities independently, using it to play the first-person shooter game Counter-Strike. Before, Alex had to use a mouth-operated controller called Quad Stick to play the first-person shooter, but even then, the controller limited him to only moving or aiming his weapon at a single time, never simultaneously like a normal Counter-Strike player would. So in other words, Alex had to essentially switch back and forth between the mouse and keyboard functions while playing the game. But thanks to Neuralink, he can now aim with the implant and simultaneously move while using the quad stick. Just running around's so enjoyable because I can look side to side and not need to move the quad stick left and right, Alex told Neuralink in a blog post. I can think about where to look and where it goes and where I want it to. It's insane. It shows him gunning down a bot enemy and then firing another from afar, all with total ease. After his injury, even though Alex wanted to learn how to use 3D objects using computer-aided design software to continue working independently, he struggled because current assistive technologies did not offer the level of control that he needed. On the second day using the Link, Alex tried Fusion 360 CAD software for the first time and designed a custom mount for his Neuralink charger. This was then 3D printed and integrated into his setup. As you can see, to the right of Alex's laptop is the 3D printed charger mount he designed using his Link. Neuralink's still working with Alex to boost his productivity with the Link by mapping intended movements to different types of clicks, left, right, and middle, thus expanding the range of control he has, allowing him to switch quickly between different modes in CAD software. Think zoom, scroll, rotate, click, and drag. In his spare time, Alex continues to use CAD software to bring his design ideas to life. The Neuralink team hopes that over time, the Link chip will help many people in their hobbies and pro fields. And they're excited to work with more individuals to help them reconnect with their passions. There's no denying that Neuralink has given Alex capabilities and opportunities he could never dream of before. Thanks to the Link, Alex has not only regained some of his motor skills and personal freedom, but has also pushed the boundaries of what he can achieve in various fields, from entertainment to work. This is just the beginning. After just 1 month using Neuralink, Alex is likely to set even more impressive records and achievements. And with Neuralink's many plans for development this year and beyond, there's no telling how far he's going to go. 4. Neuralink's upcoming plans. While updating on the promising results from the second patient, Neuralink also highlighted its future plans and improvements. Specifically, Neuralink mentioned that to further enhance the experience for trial participants using their digital devices, the company's continuing to expand the available controls. Neuralink's also working on decoding multiple clicks and simultaneous movement intentions to provide full mouse and video game controller functionality. Additionally, the company's developing algorithms to recognize handwriting intentions for faster text input. These capabilities aim not only to restore digital autonomy for those unable to use their limbs, but also to enable communication for those who can't speak, like individuals with neurological conditions like ALS. This year, Elon added that the company aims to implant chips in 10 patients with various conditions. Many are eagerly anticipating the Blindsight product, which aims to restore vision even for those with congenital blindness. And Elon announced it's going to be Neuralink's second product. As mentioned on his platform X, if all goes well, there will be hundreds of people with Neuralinks within a few years, maybe tens of thousands in 5 years, and millions in 10 years. Additionally, in their upcoming plans, the company intends to enable the Link chip to interact with the physical world, allowing users to eat and move more independently by controlling robotic arms or wheelchairs. In a conversation with Lex Fridman, Musk discussed the potential synergy between Neuralink and Tesla, particularly with the Optimus robot. Musk suggested that people who have difficulty speaking could communicate more easily through Optimus after getting a Neuralink implant. This means that your thoughts could be spoken by Optimus.
If someone has lost the use of speech, then they can still communicate to an Optimus.
Not stopping there, connecting the body to parts of Optimus and controlling them from Neuralink will also be quite feasible in the near future as both of Elon's technologies reach the pinnacle of their capabilities.
Let's say somebody has lost their arms or legs. We could actually attach an Optimus arm, Optimus legs.
It's easy to understand like this. In a normal, healthy person, the nerve commands from the brain will allow us to move our arms, legs, and other senses according to the actions we want. But in the case of the Optimus part, when a patient completes the implantation of both the chip and the Optimus part of the body, the neural commands from the brain, which are actually transmitted to biological limbs, can be transmitted to robotic limbs, allowing us to move and perform operations no less than a real arm or leg. Elon's also confident that the manipulation of your Optimus transferred arms and legs will be more flexible and responsible than your normal biological limbs. There's going to be less lag with the Optimus parts. If you think Neuralink is a technology that should be condemned and eliminated, try looking at it from a globalist point of view. Consider the cold, haunting statistics. There are about 180,000 Americans living with quadriplegia, and each year another 18,000 face the tragedy of paralysis due to spinal cord injuries. We live in a digital age where our work, entertainment, and social lives revolve around smart devices and computers. But for those with paralysis, the ability to interact with the digital world is extremely limited, leading to a loss of independence, loneliness, and financial hardship. Neuralink, a project by Elon, has ignited new hope for those with spinal cord injuries and paralysis. The success of the brain implant for the second patient, Alex, has opened the door to a future that many once thought impossible. Just 5 minutes after connecting to the computer, Alex was able to control the cursor with his thoughts, a feat that previously existed only in sci-fi movies. This achievement not only demonstrates Neuralink's groundbreaking progress, but also affirms the potential of this technology to transform lives. Alex's story is a testament to the human ability to overcome fate and believe in the power of advanced technology. The Neuralink implant chip has given Noland Arbaugh, Alex, and other patients a second life, overcoming the limitations of their bodies that they never thought possible. The success of the two patients was not a fluke, but the results of meticulous improvements after the failure of Neuralink's first surgery. Looking back at the difficulties faced by Neuralink's first patient, it's easy to see why many people are still concerned about the risks of this technology. However, Neuralink has learned from those mistakes and made significant changes to the chip design and implantation methods. By doubling the number of wires and adjusting the depth of the implants, the company has addressed issues that previously affected the system's effectiveness. As a result, Alex has done things that few could have ever imagined, from controlling a computer cursor to designing 3D objects while playing games just by thinking. Alex is living a life that he once thought was forever out of reach. And Alex's story does not end here. His success is just a small step in Neuralink's long journey. The company's got big plans for the future, from enhancing user experience to developing new applications for the chip. With Neuralink collaborating with other Elon technologies like Optimus, the potential for brain-computer interfaces is limitless. The prospect of a day when people with paralysis can move, communicate, and even work independently with the help of technology is no longer a distant dream. Experts believe that Neuralink's technology could have a significant impact, not just in medicine, like restoring mobility for paralyzed patients, but also in enhancing human abilities, something Elon often refers to as superpowers. Here's hoping that day comes soon. What do you think about Neuralink's latest patient update and Elon's next projects? Share your comments and opinions below. Are we placing our trust in Neuralink too soon? The first patient to use the chip cried out of fear after an incident where some threads retracted from the brain tissue. Even more frightening, Elon Musk and the company have hidden a terrifying secret behind this incident, which has been revealed by an internal source. This incident directly impacts the Blindsight product intended to restore vision, and it appears to have been immediately delayed. With so much happening at Neuralink, is Neuralink losing our trust? Many rumors are spreading in the media that Neuralink has temporarily stopped operations due to the incident with the first patient, but this information is inaccurate. Neuralink is still operating normally and is even recruiting the next patient for the Blindsight product, which aims to restore vision even in those who are congenitally blind, Elon Musk has confirmed. Before the incident that caused the electrode threads to detach from the brain, Neuralink frightened the first patient, Noland Arbaugh, who cried. But why was Noland so afraid? First, let us recount the incident that occurred. Noland Arbaugh underwent a smooth surgery in January 2024 with the first project telepathy. In the first few weeks after the surgery, he recovered well, showing promising signs of being able to control a computer mouse just by thinking. However, things took a turn for the worse in early March due to some technological issues, which nearly led the company to remove the device from Noland Arbaugh's brain. As we mentioned, some of the 64 threads of the N1 implant chip had retracted. As you can see on the daily peak BCI performance chart published by Neuralink, the columns represent the standard measure of Noland Arbaugh's speed and accuracy in controlling the cursor, measured in bits per second or BPS. The higher the BPS, the better the cursor control. Yeah, it's easy to see that BPS started to show a significant decline from late February to mid-March. This coincides with a period when both Elon Musk and Neuralink did not share any updates about the first patient, suggesting that the company was likely focused on resolving this unexpected issue. It wasn't until March 20th that Neuralink announced a live stream on X to update the progress and reveal the identity of the first patient. And of course, the company concealed the earlier incident. Instead, the live stream focused on Noland Arbaugh being able to play chess just by thinking. On the surface, this seemed like a major breakthrough, leading many to believe that the first human implant was a resounding success. But something seemed illogical. Neuralink seemed to have attempted to cover up the incident by highlighting Noland's ability to play chess just by thinking. However, reviewing the chart shows that Noland Arbaugh's BPS remained unstable until early April. This means that during the time Neuralink announced the livestream and his new abilities, the company had not yet fully resolved the risk of electrode thread retraction. Perhaps this is why Noland shared, "It's not perfect. I would say we've run into some issues." With this incident, Noland Arbaugh was frightened to the point of tears. He said he was very emotional because he feared losing the improvements the device had brought to his life. Arbaugh added, "It was very, very hard to give up all the amazing things that I was able to do. I think I had cried afterwards." He also told Bloomberg that he freaked out a little bit when he began noticing the lag between his thoughts and the computer cursor. What causes this problem in Neuralink? According to the Wall Street Journal, the reason behind this incident cannot be overlooked. It's believed that the threads were retracted due to pneumocephalus, a condition where air becomes trapped inside Arbaugh's skull following his implant surgery, causing some threads to disconnect. Meanwhile, many are alarmed because similar incidents with Utah array chip implants have occurred in the BCI field before, posing life-threatening risks. Although Neuralink managed to mitigate this risk soon after, even improving Noland's BPS speed to a record 8.0 BPS and currently aiming to surpass approximately 10 BPS, we believe this solution may not entirely be foolproof. The risk could recur in future patients. 3 sources, including current and former Neuralink employees, told Reuters that the issue of the small electrodes detaching from the brain tissue, causing the device to not work normally, had been considered by Neuralink for years, even during animal trials. Neuralink has not been able to find a way to permanently prevent this problem for many years now since animal research. The evidence is that it still takes the company 1 month to bring the BPS speed to a stable level. So is Noland's health threatened after this incident? It needs to be said that the human body, especially the brain, is a complete and superior structure compared to any computer humans have ever invented. However, alongside this, the brain's the most delicate part of the human body, accompanied by the most difficult to treat risk if injured. With Neuralink, inserting electrodes into brain tissue is indeed a challenging procedure, considering factors such as precise implantation locations, minimizing the risk of damage, and most importantly, preventing the body's natural rejection mechanism upon detecting foreign objects. As we stated, Neuralink is safer than any other BCI technology in the world because there have been no studies or reports proving it triggers the body's rejection response leading to brain infections. In this incident, at least as of now, Neuralink has demonstrated its safety by not causing any health issues for Noland Arbaugh. The only setback was a decrease in recorded signals, which made the patient less effective in using the chip. Neuralink has modified the recording algorithm to be more sensitive to neural population signals, improved the techniques to translate these signals into cursor movements, and enhanced the user interface. However, this incident has understandably caused Noland Arbaugh some mental distress, along with the apprehension from Neuralink supporters. On the other hand, no adverse health effects post-incident don't imply that the incident should have been allowed to continue. We can't guarantee or predict how dire the situation could become if not just a few but all 64 threads were damaged, leading to the loss of 1,024 electrodes. What's even more concerning is that in the event of a more severe incident, the likelihood of chip rejection would be even higher than ever. Why shouldn't Elon Musk be too subjective with this tiny incident? In previous submissions to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, for permission to implant brain chips in humans, Neuralink did mention in detail that through animal trials, electrodes could retract due to the brain's natural immune response, thus eliminating sensitive electrodes decoding brain signals. However, the company asserted that this was a sufficiently low risk in the implantation process and that the chip system does not need redesigning. Last year, Neuralink was indeed approved by the FDA to implant chips into human brains. According to a source, the FDA also recognized potential issues after Neuralink reported the results of animal trials. Prior to that, the FDA had expressed concerns about clarity, effectiveness, and transparency, leading to several rejections of Neuralink's applications for permission to implant brain chips in humans. Regarding the issue of the N1 chip threads retracting in Noland Arbaugh's brain, the FDA has yet to comment on the incident. FDA representatives have declined to address issues related to the company's brain chips, but the agency stated that it will continue to monitor the safety of patients participating in Neuralink studies. According to some experts, Neuralink's decision not to redesign the brain chip system could pose challenges if more electrodes detach. The company has stated it will address the issue through software adjustments, but scientists assess the algorithm adjustments may not be sufficient. Redesigning the chip also carries other risks. Two sources indicate that repeated invasions into the brain could lead to serious brain tissue damage if threads slip out or pose serious health risks if the device is removed from the brain. Previously, when Neuralink's brain chip encountered issues, some experts believed it was predictable. The connecting threads are often on the surface of the brain tissue, so complications are quite common, said Eric Ludhart, a neurosurgeon at Washington University, speaking to Bloomberg. One factor that engineers haven't really focused on is the brain's mobility within the skull. Just nodding or sudden movements can cause disturbances of a few millimeters. It's difficult to imagine a potential threat to Noland's health if risks materialize. Now, Elon Musk and Neuralink are likely facing significant scrutiny and pressure to address the situation comprehensively. All issues should be resolved thoroughly before human implantation begins, making this a significant lesson for both the company and Elon Musk. While we appreciate Neuralink's potential and the efforts of its medical team, the failure to disclose risks early on is a major oversight leading to the lack of transparency. Why Neuralink may have struggled with Blindsight. It seems like we were on the brink of witnessing another groundbreaking success from Neuralink when Elon Musk confidently stated that their new product could restore vision for the blind, even those who are congenitally blind. However, it appears that some information indicates that Neuralink's new product Blindsight has been put on hold. This hypothesis arises because Elon Musk's latest tweet suggests that Neuralink is seeking a second participant for brain chip implant testing, but this time for telepathy instead of Blindsight as previously announced. Earlier on March 20th, alongside the announcement of a live stream sharing information about the first patient, Blindsight was also unveiled, shocking the entire industry with the company's rapid progress. Specifically, in November 2023, Elon Musk shared that Neuralink was researching a vision chip, but it would take several more years to be ready. At that time, the company was focusing on obtaining FDA regulatory approval for the first human trials. And just 4 months later, Blindsight was officially announced. According to what Musk once said about Blindsight, the first two applications we're going to aim for in humans are restoring vision. And I think this is notable that even if someone has never had vision ever, like they were born blind, we believe we can still restore vision. The visual part of the cortex is still there. Even if they've never seen before, we're confident they could see, Musk said during a Neuralink show and tell in 2022. Restoring vision for those congenitally blind is indeed a groundbreaking feat. But it comes with numerous challenges because, as we see it, the success rate is much lower than controlling a computer mouse with a computer. In the case of Neuralink's Blindsight implant, it will also differ from telepathy because the 64-thread intrusion area of the N1 chip will be focused on the rear part of the brain called the visual cortex, where vision processing happens. The visual cortex is responsible for observing and processing raw image data sent from the outside world through the eyes. Therefore, injuries or diseases affecting the visual cortex can lead to visual disorders of varying degrees or even blindness. Musk also mentioned some initial developments for patients using Blindsight, stating that, "I should mention that the Blindsight implant is already working in monkeys. Resolution will be low at first, like early Nintendo graphics, but ultimately may exceed normal human vision. Also, no monkey has died or been seriously injured by a Neuralink device." While Blindsight may still be conducted this year, it's at least delayed for some undisclosed reason by Musk, possibly due to the unexpected results from primate testing or similar issues to what happened with Noland and the Blindsight chip. The only thing that we can speculate about Blindsight's operation is that the company will either transmit images from an external camera into the brain or stimulate the activity of dead visual nerve cells. These are the only two methods we can think of right now. How do you think Neuralink will restore vision? Now Neuralink is seeking more individuals like Arbaugh to test their brain chips. While it's unclear what happened, it's not necessarily essential and not too much of an issue for Neuralink to rush the release of Blindsight. The company should continue researching and testing it longer to achieve the best, safest, and most refined results, even with the smallest mishaps. The minor setback with Noland Arbaugh has been addressed, and we can't deny the successes Neuralink brought him. He can play chess, Civilization, Mario Kart, or any other related activity. 7 days a week, Noland participates in research sessions for up to 8 hours each day. However, on Saturdays and Sundays, personal use and entertainment may exceed 10 hours a day. Recently, he has used the device for a total of 69 hours in a week, with 35 hours for structured learning sessions and an additional 34 hours for personal use. Despite receiving high response and appreciation after the success in the first patient, people are still hotly discussing this incident of Neuralink. Some people wonder that the arms and legs also have nerves. Why don't we test connecting the computer to the limbs first? Maybe every time the chip malfunctions, we gotta open the skull. Answering this question is quite simple. We all know the brain's the control center of the nervous system, where all sensory information and motor commands are processed and sent. When implanted in the real brain, Neuralink can directly access nerve signals at the source, allowing it to read and send information more accurately and quickly. If implanted in an arm or leg, nerve signals must be transmitted from the brain to the limbs and then read. This can lead to signal loss or distortion, making accurate and efficient processing difficult. Others still maintain the basic view that metal integration with the human body remains difficult. Probably need to find a more durable conductor. In fact, the N1 chip has reduced the amount of metal in size as much as possible. Compared to many other BCI methods, Elon Musk's company is leading in device safety. The materials used for the N1 chip include a biocompatible enclosure that ensures it can withstand the harsh physiological conditions within the human body. Like we said above, the device features 64 ultra-thin flexible threads, each with multiple electrodes allowing for 1,024 channels to record and stimulate neural activity. These threads are made from polyamide, a biocompatible polymer, and are embedded with conductive elements like gold or platinum. The chip itself is about the size of a US quarter, which makes it approximately 24 millimeters in diameter and a few millimeters thick. It's intended to be implanted in the skull, sitting flush with the surrounding bone and covered by the skin, making it cosmetically invincible. Finally, this is mostly what people are discussing about Neuralink. They believe that the technology has a lot of potential but faces stability issues, so it'll be a long time before it can be applied to a large number of patients. We fully agree with this sentiment. Neuralink and Elon Musk need to focus on resolving all issues with their product and not be complacent about any minor risks. Everything related to human health is precious and not as straightforward as issues at Tesla or SpaceX. The incident with Neuralink's first patient has raised many doubts about the safety and effectiveness of this technology. The company's lack of transparency and information concealment only adds to public distrust. However, we believe people shouldn't rush to condemn Neuralink. They have achieved certain successes in helping Noland Arbaugh restore function, and the future potential of this technology is immense. The key issue is that Neuralink needs to take immediate action to regain public trust. They need to be more transparent about potential risks, more open in sharing information, and more diligent in ensuring user safety. Neuralink stands at a crossroads. They can choose to continue to cover up and evade issues, or they can face reality and make the necessary changes to regain public trust. The future of Neuralink holds much promise, but the road ahead is still filled with obstacles. Can they overcome these challenges and regain public trust? Only time will tell. Imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That is the goal, Musk wrote on X. Finally, Neuralink's ambition is to use implantable devices to connect the human brain to computers to assist people, such as enabling paralyzed individuals to control smartphones or computers, or helping blind people regain vision. Similar to existing brain-machine interfaces, the company's implantable device will collect electrical signals sent by the brain and interpret them into actions. Consumers won't have widespread access to this technology soon. Before Neuralink's brain implant devices are released to a larger market, they'll need to undergo rigorous risk control under FDA regulatory approval. What are your thoughts on the Neuralink incident and the lack of transparency in delaying the disclosure of risks associated with the retraction of the N1 chip threads? Please share your views in the comments below. We value your thoughts. And we hope that you've learned more about Neuralink's second human trials after watching this episode. If you did, hit that like button and join your Tesla Car World family by subscribing to our channel. And don't miss out on any of our awesome videos by hitting the bell icon. We value your feedback and your time. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon. Until then, stay safe and have fun.